Hi, I'm Coach MK, founder of the Fitness Protection Program. I'm a run coach, not a life coach. We're never really talking about the running. Running is the tool. It's the conduit we use to examine the world we live in, as well as its impact on our own lives and the lives of the people around us. How we react to certain people and to certain stories tells us a lot about how we view ourselves. I'm committed to the thoughtful, intentional exploration of the importance of running so that no one discounts their own badassery, ever. Final note, this podcast is geared towards every runner who won't lose their home, livelihood, or health insurance if they show up to the corral with a hangover. Not that I'm encouraging you to do that, just saying. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the Fitness Protection Podcast. But so, do you need to vent about your wellness session before?
Yeah,
and you were real polite. You adulted like a boss through a session I wasn't going to touch with a 10-foot pole.
Well, they had some people on that panel that were talking about like there was a sentence that said how to help your listeners want to make healthy choices or something like that. I was like, I wonder what they mean by that.
Children?
Yeah.
Need to be incented. Do we need to bribe you with candy to get you to poo-poo in the potty? What else?
Right. Do I need a sticker chart for you now? So I was like, okay, I feel like I need to know what people think they mean when they say things like that.
Yeah.
That's part of, I think of that as part of my job to, kind of be to have a sense of different kinds of messaging that are out there that are getting to people and that are making people feel different ways.
Yeah.
And I don't want to throw anyone under the bus specifically. I came away from this session, which there were only 2 people. There were supposed to be 4 people that were going to talk about different things. I came away from it feeling, yes, like there was a lot of coded language about kind of selling products, selling courses, selling vitamins through your podcast, and not being ashamed to do that, because you know what? Corporations make money off of people all the time. And like, you shouldn't be ashamed to make money off of people, getting healthier. And I was like, well,
yeah, you should. Yeah, you should. Yes, you fucking should.
What you're really making money on right now is like people's shame and their fear. And their fear. And one of the 2 presenters was definitely coming from a background similar to Gwyneth Paltrow, who we talked about on the podcast a few months ago. Seems like forever ago now.
I know.
Came from a background of losing her family members to cancer and feeling and like discovering juice cleanses and how they can heal cancer and Western medicine can't. So I want to be very careful how I talk about these things. My mother went through years of trying to heal herself in different ways after having gone through chemotherapy, after having been told by her oncologist, look, yes, you've had a relapse, but you're in a pretty good place in terms of your overall health. This is, if you really insist that you don't want to do chemo and you want to try other stuff, this is a time that it would be okay for you to do that. But I still want to be seeing you and scanning you. And, if your counts get to a certain point, I'm not going to endorse this anymore. So we talked about that in our podcast about Gwyneth Paltrow, I know, so I don't want to repeat too much. My mom spent a lot of time pursuing food and tea and other things like that as
she wanted to feel like she had done everything.
Yes,
she could.
She did.
And she wanted you to know that she had done everything.
Yes,
she could.
Definitely. And so I understand, I really do understand. And I felt it coming very honestly from this person, the desire to learn things that other people could benefit from. She did not want anyone to go through what she went through. She did not want anyone to watch their parents die of cancer. I mean, and Absolutely. that's real. But all of the ways in which that has been monetized, I don't know, it was uncomfortable. It's the first time this whole conference where I was sitting in a room going, my values really do not align with this.
Yeah.
And I kind of needed to know what they were going to be talking about. And again, based on the language and the verbiage about what this session was going to be about, I thought, okay, there's a chance I might hear some things that are useful. There's a chance these people will be talking about things that our population hears, thinks about, picks up on, that we maybe need to be responding to in different ways, and that we have responded to. We've talked about the wellness industry. We talk about the diet industry.
And we talk about why the wellness industry exists. It's because of a gap in the medical industry that needs to be filled. It's an attention deficit on the behalf of doctors. It is fat phobia induced. There are multiple levels and layers of like misogyny and, oh no, you're fine and you're not the worst I've seen today, therefore this isn't bad, that create, well, then what do I do? PCOS, is that really a problem? I mean, it's your vagina. Maybe you should douche.
Yeah.
Maybe you shouldn't be a douche. How about that? So knowing like wellness exists to fill a very real need, and has it turned into something ugly? As a special needs mom, I can be the first to tell you the last therapy I wanted to try for my kid, because I know how big that gap can be when it comes to autism spectrum. And like, there's nothing wrong with your child. Your child processes the world differently. I would also like my child to live independently. It's not about what's wrong with him. I can't fix the world. How do I and give him the tools necessary to navigate this world? I know and when I need to tuck my Southern accent in, and I've worked very hard to do that. I mean, you've seen this weekend when it's a very much conscious effort to talk with.
Oh my gosh. It is so fascinating to watch you turn it on and turn it off. Like you know, it very much like from moment to moment, what is going to make people listen to you.
Yeah.
And
or rather, what are they not going to hear if I use it in this voice?
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, I'm a brain surgeon. They're not, I went to Harvard. Like, it's just not going to, guess which one of us is Dr. Sarah of Harvard University? They are not going to guess me. So, oh my God, unless they watch you navigate a map on my BlackBerry, then they'll be like, oh, that's her. That's her.
I did not cover myself in glory that time I tried to navigate a map.
That was absolutely glorious. MK, can you navigate this for me? I'm driving the car, Sarah.
What do I do?
Find your finger. Oh my God. But it was, I knowing what I have to do is I'm the most privileged that there is. I'm not the richest that there is, but when it name a privilege, I have it. And I still face difficulties. What will my special needs child face as an adult, especially if something happens to me before he reaches adulthood? That's what the therapy is for. And first, you have to wrap your brain around that. That's not what's wrong with my kid. It's making him independent. And right now, we don't know what he will have. And the last thing in the world I wanted to try was skin brushing to reset his vestibular system, because they make it sound like science when they explain it to you, but it's still at the end of the day brushing your child's skin. And then from there, then there's ABA, which has evidence-based and it's scientifically backed and all these studies, and it's the only one insurance will pay for if you can get them to pay for it at all. And then the final thing is occupational therapy. You're going to go and play with toys and do wheelbarrows. And you're like, how is that effective? But the two things that we didn't want to do, ABA did not work for him. It did nothing. It drove him crazy, made him angry. It increased all of his behaviors and it stressed us the fuck out, to be perfectly honest.
And can you remind me what ABA is? I'm sorry.
Applied behavioral analysis.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And for some, it's a lifesaver, but you don't know at age 3 what they're going to need. Yeah. And I don't want to try to categorize and say it works for this type versus that type, because autism is a spectrum and it really does come down to the kid. But the two things that transformed him were the two things we waited the longest to do. It was skin brushing, which, I would never have believed the difference it made. It was remarkable. And then from there, when we had to do that before we could they said there's no point in doing all this other occupational therapy if we don't reset the vestibular system. Right. So we did that with skin brushing, then went on and like now you see where, I mean, you haven't met him in person yet, but you see where he is now.
We talked on the phone.
Right. But that right there is a huge deal.
Yes.
We talked on the phone. It was so fun to see. So at this conference too, my son is obsessed with, he couldn't unstim or calm down, for lack of a better word, self-soothe at night to go to sleep. And it was suggested to find a podcast. So the very first hit that came up when you put in sleep in Apple Podcasts is Sleep with Me by Dave Ackerman, which is owned by Night Vale Productions now. And he's here at the conference, and I sent him a note being like, I just want you to know you changed our lives. You really, really did. I talked about with pride the day my son came in and was like, Mom, you're doing it wrong, when he heard me recording a podcast. Took my headphones off, put them on, and was like, from PRX, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and friends beyond the binary, it's time for the podcast. And I've used it before to open the mantra.
Yeah.
Like that had like, I just bawled after that. All of these things we never thought he would do emerged from wellness. So there is something to therapy, because these sorts of things cannot be double-blinded and put into a test tube in a really controlled environment. And I get that. Which kid needs 7 minutes of skin brushing? Do you really need it every 90 minutes for 7 weeks? Like, how do you come at those numbers, and how do you know? And it can be really hard to put your trust there and go, because it disrupts your life for 7 weeks. It was horrifying. Mm-hmm. And what if it hadn't worked? Right. And what if we hadn't tried it? So the last thing in the world we wanted to try, I swear to God, that is my one regret in life. I wish we had done that first. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that it would. Which does not mean it would have been as effective if we had done it first. We'll never know. But I tell you that to tell you this. The things that we trust have failed us so miserably that we've had to, and sometimes there's no way to be sure, and you just have to walk off into the ether. And that's where wellness comes in. Mm-hmm. We're glad that it exists. Yeah. I'm really happy that occupational therapy is a science. It is like applied behavioral therapy and applied behavior analysis exists. It's all good. I truly believe that serves a purpose of good. No one gets into occupational therapy though, and then decides to start selling you a magic pill that you put in your kid's bum that will then cure autism because of worms living in there. But I can absolutely see how his skin brushing didn't work. And my heart just breaks for the families that went to prison over this. And it's not because I think they didn't belong in prison. I have to imagine what state, because I can see it. You want to do everything. You want to be a good parent. You don't want to hurt them. And someone has just told you this is in your child and you need to kill this thing that's in your child. And what you actually do is kill your child's colon. And that is a very extreme end. But the line from any of us to that mom is a lot shorter than we want to think it is. And how do you know when you're on that downward spiral? Mm-hmm. I don't know that you do, but I do know what that desperation feels like when you just need some semblance of normal. And if you talk about it, you're exploiting your kid, you're being a bad mom. Or if you do it on social media, then, you need to spend time with your children instead of making friends on Facebook. And it's like, well, if I had a person here that I could truly connect with and discuss this, I would do that. So I just look at all the things that have been demonized as bad for society that have actually been incredible tools for me and resources for people that I know. And I get angry in these moments and very perplexed. That's why I couldn't go to it at all. Yeah. With someone that's going to have a story like yours or Gwyneth Paltrow's of real, true pain and the wondering of, could this have turned it around? Could this have helped? Could this have saved? I really want to share it with people. And do you really care if it's an MLM? I'm like, yes, I do. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I think I just have an inherent distrust of when I buy a service and then they try to sell me something. It's why I don't have the shop front and center. If you guys want to go buy a t-shirt with fitness protection on it, I've sent one email ever being like, hey, I'll have a shop. Happy Memorial Day. That's it. And then I walked away. Mm-hmm. I haven't done it since. We're about to open another with a wider variety of sizes and whatnot. That I'm very proud of. Mm-hmm. But again, that's if somebody wants it, fantastic. Yeah. But it's not like you will run faster in this shirt. You will run faster in this shoe. Right. You will be thinner if you consume this. That's always, what are you really selling? Is this really, are you, and what you're doing is you're trading my fear. You're selling me hope. Yes. Yes. And there's a real, I feel that tension at this conference. Yes. So for context, in case you haven't, seen us talking about it on social media, we are at a conference in Atlanta called She Podcasts Live. This is the first time that She Podcasts has put on a conference. And we were eager to be here because we were very eager to be here. We knew it was going to be early stage people, brand new podcasters, people. And I still think we're very, very new, even though yes. And I want to say to Susan, every time you've ever told me you're more successful than you think you are, I have appreciated it. And I have been like, I've not believed you at all. And then I came here, and once again, as usual, as always, Susan, you were right.
Yes.
We are, every single person I have been introduced to and I've typed in like the name of their podcast to subscribe to it, I can see in a certain application how many subscribers they have, at least in this one vehicle. And we're bigger than all of them by a mile.
And I think that we have a very clear vision. So the tension that I feel is exactly what you were just talking about. Podcasting is really about building community.
Yes.
And that is what everyone here wants to do. Everyone here wants to build a community. And the reason for that is a reason that I really respect and admire and feel, and that I feel too. They want to build sort of a level of understanding. They want to reach people who need to be reached. They want to be that place where someone who feels very alone can go and feel less alone. Moms of special needs kids,
absolutely.
People who are helping their parents through really difficult health situations.
Black women that are trying to get through cancer, being like, our communities do not talk about this. And I wanted to provide a space to talk about cocktails and cancer.
Cocktails and cancer,
It was very good. The two women were phenomenal. I loved watching them last night. But unfortunately, I was falling to F asleep. We had nothing to do with them. It had to do with like jet lag.
8 p.m. After 8 p.m. We are tired. We are tired.
Make me a pie.
And so a lot of this conference is about that. And a lot of this conference is about monetizing your audience.
Yes.
And that's where I feel that tension kind of lives. And there are some people who are addressing it and talking about it and kind of offering you different ways to think about it. But, there's a reason why we have not had paid sponsorships on this podcast. We've not sought them. And even when we get big enough that we would attract them naturally, that's not part of what we want to do.
No.
Because we feel very strongly about not selling hope to people.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus, I feel like there's something that kind of takes away from a post once you see sponsored by at the bottom, not because, and I have a tough time explaining it. I get it when I watch a TV show that the advertisements make that TV show possible. But if I'm subscribing to the channel, I'm kind of expecting not to see advertisements. And our podcasts are very much made for our community. And if you're paying to be here, this one's for you. Right. I don't really want to have to add. I feel like if you come here and hear advertisements, that takes a little something away from it.
Yeah.
Which again, I know that our audience is bigger than our paying subscriber base, but I hope to grow that with time, and the podcast will assist in that. Right now, we definitely have more listeners than we do subscribers, and I'm okay with that too.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like what you're going to be paying us to do is to join this community that we maintain so carefully, and I feel that there's absolutely value in that. Where I feel like a lot of people just kind of, I have a voice, I have a message, I start a podcast, and then they're like, then the question becomes, how do I make money doing this?
Yes.
Which is, there is nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
It's just not it's not RMO. I was like, what is the revenue model? What is the revenue model? Because I'm really boring. And I'm like, well, before I even got behind
business school in session.
Oh my gosh. Well, I tell you that. So here's what an investment banker does. If you watched Bonfire of the Vanities or Pretty Woman, you seen Pretty Woman?
Yeah.
Remember Pretty Woman?
Oh yeah.
You remember when she had the dinner and chucked the snail across the room, like slippery little suckers?
Yeah.
Do you remember who they were having dinner with?
Nope.
All right. It was a father and a son who owned a business that was going bankrupt. And he was basically having this could be a friendly takeover or a hostile takeover. What do you want?
That's right.
She didn't really understand what was going on. And then later, it's interesting to go back and watch Pretty Woman, because what's happening, the purpose that his firm served has gone from interesting and arguably important to territory. Yeah. So private equity, let's say you're a family owned company, you've been in business 100 years. None of the children want to take the company over. They don't even want to work for it. And who do you hand your legacy off to? You would almost rather cash it in and sell it in the financial, in the publicly traded markets, to sell it to a private equity company for a certain period of money, to type of trust fund, and then your grandchildren and great grandchildren won't have to work, but your options, or you shut it down and the money just disappears. Your life's work is gone. And that's what the threat is. Either you sell to me, no one else is going to buy, your life's work is going to disappear. And so will everything that your grandchildren possibly inherit. What's it going to be? And it was just a very difficult conversation to watch, because you're like, ooh, this guy's a terrible person.
Yeah.
Really terrible person. But that is what happens when you don't have a strong revenue model and you don't have an idea of where your money comes from and how to run it into perpetuity.
Yeah.
So for me, everything starts and ends with a revenue model. Where does your money come from? Who is your target audience? What purpose are you serving? And do you really care when that day comes? If that person is looking you in the face and say, you got two options, shut it down or sell it to me, I'm good to shut it down. I would rather shut it down than have it become something I do not want it to be. Yeah. And that takes guts, and it happens more frequently than you would think.
Yes.
A lot more frequently. But it is hard for me to have the conscience that I do, the business background that I do, because as an investment banker, that was my job, was to identify companies that could fall apart easily and be like a little bit of leverage here, and then we can make a deal like this happen. We're identifying a company like Jamba Juice. They've got investor money pouring into them. How do we advise them to spend it? Or what company has a really strong enough revenue model and value proposition that we could lever it up with debt, come in, add the debt, save ourselves, and make a little money for them in the process. It's a very predatory type of industry where you're absolutely looking for your fees, and you're looking for strong versus weak. And at the very end of the day, I can tell a strong company from a weak company. The reason that company was a great company and worth buying in Pretty Woman was its track record. It had everything it needed, but it also had a whole lot of debt and no future. So I'm good at finding those companies with no future. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of what that company lacked, but I wanted to make sure that we absolutely had it before we got started. And I've not heard those things talked about here. When I talk about a revenue model, what I'm saying is, what is your path to financial independence? Yeah. Do you have to take out bank loans where you're not worried about? I'm like, I would rather us all not get paid and just throw money into making this sustainable after a certain period of time, and then be like, that was good, and walk away and not have to put our house up as collateral or have to put our kids' college funds up as collateral. Like, I don't want to throw things at my dream. I want to invest in my revenue model, you know?
Yeah.
That is kind of, we are living the dream in a really big way. And it bothers me when I'm standing in a room full of people, maybe are more successful than I am, that can't articulate it, when I'm standing in front of a run coach who is really successful, who can't break down what it is that made them good at what they do. Or how did you get fast? I've just always been fast is not the helpful answer. Yeah. I'm like, you can't break it down. You don't know how to look at a person and say, we're going to do this, this, this. Here is your best next step throughout a journey. And that is what I'm looking for, is a person who can do that. And not to say that person is not here. They just have not been leading some of the sessions that I've been in. And as usual, as you might imagine, it's been real hard for me to keep my mouth shut and say, like, that is terrible advice, y'all. Nope. Nope. Because at the end of the day, if that's what they want to do, cool. But that's not our path. Our path starts and ends in a Google spreadsheet. Yeah. Not even a Google spreadsheet, because it's more secretive than that. Like, I trust nothing. It's on an air-gapped computer that no one can access but me and my husband. And our attorney.
So since we're thinking of this podcast in some ways as like the training log of our journey, the training log of building this company, the training log of so many things, like getting you from where you were not where you wanted to be yet, to really on the road to where you want to be, running the New York City Marathon in a few weeks. I mean, we're both on sort of personal journeys with our own fitness and our own running, but also together with this company and with Chris. And it's so fun to have Chris here.
And Kara.
I'm so glad you're not here, Kara. Spirit. And we hear you're really good at photoshopping. So we're going to make you Photoshop yourself into a picture with us.
Yeah, I just want to say for the record, I'm real glad you're not here, Kara, because I think you'd be fucking miserable. I love you too much to drag you to this shit.
Well, they would give you an introvert.
I don't love you too much to drag you to this shit, Chris.
Not me either, apparently.
I didn't even think about you, Sarah.
But hey, they gave out these nice introvert pins, and they were gone instantly.
Right?
But they had more in the VIP room.
Which I haven't found yet. I need to go in there.
Oh, I'll show you. Well, we're going to go later for the drinks. The drinks.
Where I put on the dress.
Yeah, and the earring. Oh my God, MK's been letting me wear her earrings. I love them. They make me so happy.
You look amazing. Thank
you. This is the third pair I've worn, and I am enjoying them. My earlobes are enjoying them a little bit less than I am, but that's cool. They're going to get some recovery time.
They need a little. Well, I'm impressed. Like you see, I took mine off as soon as I walked through the door.
I did.
It's like, you're lucky I'm still wearing my bra, but like. Frankly, it's like I want to take everything off this Georgia heat. I'm sweating in my silk shirt, but like it's a pretty shirt.
I'm amazed that you're wearing a silk shirt. It is a beautiful color. Woo. Okay, what I was going to ask though, since this is our training log for our business, this podcast in so many ways, what are the benchmarks that you feel like we're hitting right now. As you're here at this conference, you're kind of looking back at what we've done and having sort of a frame of reference now that we haven't had yet. What do you see that we're doing that we're going to look, when we look back on this time, what are we going to remember? Like, oh, that was when we were at this point.
We have never looked at each other and said, how do we monetize our audience?
That is so true.
I am proud of that every single day.
Yeah.
I'm like, what more can I give? Right. That they don't have. Mm-hmm. That's more my question. Like without like, what more can I make Sarah do? Because anything I want to give them is going to fall on somebody else because I barely have enough time to like talk to the attorneys and protect our intellectual property. Which is, by the way, like, can I just tell you that last session we went into? I took a big deep breath at the beginning of all this and spent close to $22,000 before we even showed up because I'm like, if I'm going to do this, we're going to do it right. And I've got to protect my intellectual capital.
Yes.
And this is a step a lot of people, if this doesn't go anywhere, I'm in the hole for $22,000. But boy, that was the first thing we told them all to do. Like, if you, before you go out there, you need to X, Y, and Z, and this is going to be expensive. And I'm like,
yep.
Okay. Tell me more.
Balance my checkbook already.
Yes. Yeah. But that was money we were willing to put down. If there's no point in doing this, if we don't protect this piece of intellectual property, this, and this, tie up these loose ends and then hold our breath and just keep pushing forward and hope for the best. Yeah. And because if we don't do that and we just push forward and say we can do that later, that becomes impossible to do.
Yes.
So either we're playing chess or checkers, and I would rather spend the money and play chess and not make anyone else take on any risk. And if I I don't even necessarily need to get that back before people get paid. Like that is not even in play. But at some point we need to get that back. But I feel like if we do this correctly and we do it ethically and everyone stays on board, then that there is a plan and a pathway for that to happen. So that's number one. We know what we're doing and we are a business who happens to have a podcast. Super fun. We're not a podcast. We're not a company that's like, oh, we've got assets. We should start a podcast because a lot of those have entered the market lately and they're going to fade because it's like, what is this for? It's kind of like YouTube. You've got to be on YouTube for what? SEO. Why? Why does this matter? Like if you, I don't think that these marketers and branders are wrong. I'm not saying that they're wrong, but I'm saying like, if you're going to start a podcast, it is a very specific form. It's kind of like being on Twitter. If you don't know how to use Twitter, if you don't understand how people use Twitter, if it doesn't make sense in your product mix, you're just copy pasting somewhere else and you're not using the tool effectively. It's almost better not to be there, exactly. I would think.
Yes.
So I feel like our podcast has a purpose. We know who our audience is. We know who we want it to be. We know how we want it to grow. We have a message. We have all the elements, and we have a very affordable product that I've just been told 3 times is priced too low. And I disagree with that, but I also think that when I say I'm aggressive as fuck, there's a reason that this is priced where it is. Mm-hmm. So I want to scale the shit out of it. Yeah. So I can more easily do that with an underpriced product, with paths to upsell, meaning like not trying to like options so that you have options to do things in the seasons when you want more things, right. Or you have different things in the season when you want different things, but the base set of products you will always have access to. Like, why would you ever want to cancel the subscription is the way I want to look at it. Right. It's like, I would rather keep the tether. Yes. I would rather pay to have this anchored to my identity during a period when I'm not. That's why Runner Interrupted was so important to me. Yeah. So when I think about what we're doing correctly, we're thinking that way about the revenue model, about what it takes to scale, and not about what else can we sell to our super fans who are already here. Right. What more value can we extract from the audience? Because I never want to think that way. I just don't think that works. The Japanese way of doing business, to speak in a very high borderline racist context, because I did work in Japan for a while. When you're evaluating a Japanese firm and the way that they prioritize their transactions over time, one of them is extracting the value. And this is like for McDonald's. When McDonald's goes into Japan, they can't use their usual revenue model there because you have to extract maximum value out of each transaction. And if you've gone to McDonald's in Japan, it is maddening. It is the longest line ever. It is not fast food. It's not quite slow food, but it's sure as hell ain't fast either. It's you were waiting, and then they're like
made to order.
It's made to order, wow. And they fold the top of the bag very precisely. The fries are very neatly next to the perfectly wrapped. They
that slow precision is going out of the way to make the customer feel special. And if you don't do that, you've got no future in Japan, because they don't want faster. They want more precise. And the value then is like, how do we derive more value from each transaction, not from each person who shows up? And it's a very different way. Are we extracting the value here or from the person? How do we supersize it, get 25 more cents, versus how do we make them want to pay 25, like care less about the 25 extra seconds it took to package this perfectly, that
and
they
make them
feel
want to come back.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very interesting long-term play on the customer that we don't have, because everyone here is in such a time crunch. It's one of very few times in my life, I will say, I kind of dig the way Japanese do it, and I would rather do that.
That's really fascinating. I did not know that.
I would rather do a whole lot of work to have a product where you're like, man, I'm not paying enough for these $30, but this $30 gets me so much.
Yeah.
And have a person feel it, as opposed to that gym you never go to. Like, this is really worth the $30 because they've got so much stuff. But there comes a point, if you're not using it, that is useless to you.
Yes.
I want to have something that is useful to everyone at every stage in their running journey over time. And as long as I'm thinking about, why are you not here? Why did you leave? What did you lack? Why haven't you started? What are you feeling? What is going on here? And what more can I do for you? Not more to get you to move, to like, what do I have to get you to do to get you to show up for a run, as though like, you're a horse. Just beat that horse one more time. It'll move faster. Yeah. It's making sure that we're really centering the client and the client experience every step of the way, which is what I feel like we're doing. Yeah. And so when I think about where we are right now, we're doing exactly what I wanted to do. And if what I've been seeing in some of these is any indication, we are doing all the right things. Whether or not we can still do everything right and not succeed, just like you can do all the right things and not lose weight, like I did over the last year. You can do all the right things and still not qualify for Boston. You can do everything right and still not get the rewards. But I would rather fail with my values intact and be like, honey, we lost $22,000. I'm really, really sorry, but boy, we had a hell of a year. And thank God, like, we #freed Sarah from Harvard. There you go. Woo! Like, she is not wearing golden handcuffs in a language lab. If you're going to wear golden handcuffs, at least make it be a McKinsey.
Well, and my husband will thank you for that forever, for sure.
Yay. Oh, God, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And I'm also proud. Another thing I'm really proud of too, the quality of this podcast is ridiculous. And no one can believe I'm like, it's kind of a bragging point for me, the things that get people's attention when they're like, oh, who's your podcast editor? I'm like,
Chris Zarnock.
Her name's Chris. Where does she work for me? You full time? Yep. Yeah. How do you have a full-time person? I'm like, she volunteers. What? How many hours a week did she work? I'm like, close to 35. How did you get someone to volunteer 35 hours a week for you? I'm like, by saying thank you multiple times a day, by telling her how awesome she is, by investing in her development continually. I'm like, what do you need? I'm like, sure.
Buying her some drinks in Atlanta.
And food. I bought her food too, Sarah.
Yeah. Well, that's right. MK bought her food. I bought her drinks because we didn't know that they were going to give us drink tickets.
And I will let you wear earrings tonight, Chrissy. Woo! Oh my God, I've got 3 pairs you can choose from. Yay!
Oh my God.
Oh my God. But that really is what it's all about. It's the gratitude back to, it's like we've created something so good, and I have to remind myself of this continually because I don't want to fail anyone. But we've attracted like a full-time team of volunteers. Our C-suite is full of volunteers. Who was like, if this happens, I want to be the first on the train, and I'm going to do whatever I can to make it happen in my off hours. And that to me is just tremendous because no one else here has that. And so what if it is a cult of personality? I'm not selling promises. I'm delivering every step of the way, and I aim to do that. So that's the final thing when I think of, I'm so conscious and so cautious about what I promise. I can't promise you're going to get what you want. I wish I could, but I can promise that I will support you every step of the way if you let me. And I will bend over backwards to make sure that the resources you need are present in an affordable, reasonable form, because no one should ever have to pay what the price my family did after my dad's heart attack. No one should ever have to go through what my family went through after my son's diagnosis. And most families could not have made the bandwidth to make room that we did for all the things that we did for either my dad or for RJ way back when. And if I can do something simple to support all the people that are making their families happen in one way or another everywhere, and give them a little time themselves each day and help them win this marathon called life, then yeah, my purpose on this earth was served. So What have I got right now? Absolutely nothing but a real inflated sense of purpose and value. But you need that to do anything. Yeah. Bill Clinton did not become president because he thought he deserved it. To be perfectly honest, I'm listening to Fiasco, the podcast right now, and I'm like, yep, that's accurate. That's accurate. But I laugh about it. Asking any person that's ever risen to greatness was like, why not me? And driven by something bigger and deeper. And not to say that I'm destined for greatness, but this is kind of an ideological quest. Everyone should have this sense of feel good that has been deprived of so many, and it's so unfair. Yeah. And I feel like if anything, we're coming back to a wave and a time where we're kind of tired of talking to experts who have expertly, gaslit us and not listened with their expertise. And, I might not be the best of the best of the best. I'm not the best banker or the best mom or the best runner or the best anything. I can be as mediocre as they come and still be right. And I feel like the tide is turning back in that direction where it's like, you know what? I don't want an expert. I want MK. Yeah. And I want you.
Yeah. And speaking of people who we want, I just want to shout out to Alicia and Patricia, who came to run with us this morning. So we had Alicia and Patricia who are in Maintain. Patricia's in the Strength Beta. Yay!
They live a mile from each other and have rhyming names,
which is amazing. And then we had two other women, Cheryl
Robinson, who had trained with us before.
Yes, right, in a prior heart rate training program, and a woman named Marina, who is an organizational psychologist, conference 10-day.
The organizational doctor. Yeah. And I was like, oh, we need to have a conversation with her.
One of the things that's happening at this conference is we are meeting hella people who we would definitely want to have on our podcast. We have had some amazing conversations with women who I think are going to have a lot to say and a lot that our community is going to be excited about. Oh, yeah. And she was one of them. So I just want to say to Alicia and Patricia, who are the most likely of those 4 people to be listening right now, thank you so much for coming. It was so great.
I love meeting people in person.
Me too.
I really do.
Me too. It was so lovely to see your faces and hear your voices in real life and run with you and stop and take pictures and have sort of wandering conversations while we jogged through the Olympic Park in Atlanta. It could not have been more perfect. And it was so nice for you to hang around afterwards. And there is not a single person in our programs who I would not be delighted to run with. I feel like I want all of them there so much. And I know that you do too.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that, every time there's something where people meet up in person, it makes it really special, and I will never forget that. So thank you for coming.
This is why I'm hoping everyone comes to 3 days at the fair.
Yes,
and that conversation we had with the woman who does all the editing for the Spartan podcast, Marion.
My gosh,
but okay, I feel like you need to go pull up her picture and see. She looks nothing like you met her already. She looks nothing like her picture. I did not. I was like, oh, do you know? Oh, you work for Spartan. You know Marion. And she's like, I am Marion. I'm like, all right, girl, I thought you were blonde. We got to talk. We got to talk. No offense intended. You're gorgeous, but you look nothing like your picture.
She overheard MK say the name Kara Goucher, and she turned around. She was like, oh, I didn't meet Kara Goucher.
I talked to her last week. I was like, oh, really?
And then an hour later, we were still talking.
Oh my God. And I felt so thank you, Alicia and Patricia, for sitting through that. I apologize. I have not run into Marion since at this huge conference with 800 people. But it was this fascinating talk. And I was saying she was like, the Spartan races are really a unique and cool community. And I was like, well, so let me tell you about 3 days at the fair. 3 days at the fair is really special. So you don't know Susan. So you wouldn't know about this. I'm real sorry. It's good to be me because we know Susan.
Yeah.
There we go. So, but I'm really hopeful that everyone can come to 3 days at the fair and we can have something similar to this in a place with fewer mosquitoes. Hopefully won't be as hot. It's New Jersey. No offense, Georgia.
Yeah.
Y'all on my mind. The lights never go out and it's hot.
The lights never go out, and that's because the sun never comes up, as we've learned.
As we've learned. Right? Whoa.
Tomorrow we're going to be running in the dark for a while.
A long time.
Yes.
And yes, you need to go to that 9 a.m. breakfast because I'm pretty sure we're going to be late. I'm just going to send you in my stead and see if there's anything we need to get. Since I've just the real value here at this conference has I would call it the what's the word? Not the stealth missile, the heat-seeking missile and all this. It's been Chris.
Yeah.
It's totally been Chris.
Chris is crushing it. I just
know.
want to say we're making her blush right now. She's sitting across from us, but she's crushing it, even though she just recovered from an ear infection and then had to get on a plane to get here and has been going up and down the elevators, which were making my ears pop. And I did not just have an ear infection. Chris was like right in the elevators, like it's no big deal, and networking the hell out of this place.
Yeah, like it's just the text alone you've sent me. And guess who? I just met this person and we can do this. And I'm like, fuck yeah, we can. That's exactly how I want you to be thinking. Perfect, go.
And she's like hashtagging all over the place on Instagram and Facebook. I'm just really, you're doing amazing stuff, and I'm really impressed.
Oh my God. Yeah, you really are.
So
I mean, like you come
here.
back with names and contacts and this person edits this guy's podcast. I'm like, we could, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. I met this person and she edits this podcast and you'd be a good fit for it. I'm like, yes. Awesome. So I think next year we're just going to send you.
But that wouldn't be as much fun.
Well, that's true. Oh my gosh. But yeah, you've done a terrific job. You've done a really great job. I mean, of just like relaxing and looking real happy and looking good in my ears.
In other words.
I'm just kidding. Sarah's here to be pretty, and she's crushing that too. Your hair in this heat.
My hair is liking the Atlanta weather. Yeah,
it's doing good. I mean, it really is. I mean, the curls are just. It's hard to believe that isn't a really cheap home perm. It's like the perfect spiral. Like your hair is probably down to your waist, but these curls are just tight.
Yes, they're very tight, and I also just got it cut recently.
Did you?
Yes, so it's got a little extra bounce because after I get it cut, it kind of stays a little perkier for a couple of months because the ends aren't so dried out and sad. I'm like, please, I just want to die. Just let me go in peace. That's what I know it's time. And I hadn't gotten a haircut in like 5 months, and I was like, okay, it's ready. So
me neither.
A couple of weeks ago,
family pictures next week. I've got to get that done.
Oof.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I know it's. I wanted to get it done before we came here, and also before this wedding we went to last weekend, just in case anyone photographed me, which I'm pretty sure they didn't. This weekend on the other, no, people have been photographing me here because I'm here to look pretty. Obviously.
Too right. And that guy has been following you around. Every time I turn around, I'm like, she's over there.
What guy?
The guy with the camera.
No,
the guy that shows up to every room with the camera.
Are you serious?
I swear to God, he's looking for you.
Oh God!
Have you not noticed this?
No, this is the first time.
You know the guy I'm talking about, right?
I know the guy. But
yeah. He shows it. He's got the camera, like it looks like a selfie stick. It's in front of him, and he just kind of like walks it with like a head, and he's like scanning the room, and I'm like, she's there. He's like, and he went, and I swear he moved in that direction. It was terrific. I'm like, damn right he wants Sarah. You're the only person with the curly hair here. Like, who else could he be looking for?
Listen, I don't know.
You're right. Exactly.
Well,
oh my God.
I better really make sure that I wear the red dress and the earrings tonight. Would not want to disappoint the guy.
No,
guy.
And the green shoes.
And the green shoes definitely for sure.
Shoot. But you've been feeling yourself, and I think that you were saying this is the first. That was exactly what I said to Susan earlier. I was like, Sarah is in the zone. She is feeling herself, and it's fun to watch. And it doesn't. I think it's really important to just be somewhere sometimes.
Yes.
And it's like you've been, like I said, a heat-seeking missile. I don't even know what Chris is going to text me next, but she's probably been more productive this morning than I have. And you were very clear on like, this is what I want to get, this is what I want to do, and this is how I'm going to operate. And it's the first time I've watched you, but before you realized we were going to have to go back down one floor, which is hard to do, and maybe get a plug to connect our microphone in.
Oh, that almost did me in.
That's the first time I've seen you stress out. And that's like a record. Yeah. It's been like over, and I'm sharing a room with you. I would have seen some stress because I cause it. And you
do not cause it. You are great to share a room with. Sharing a room with MK for the last 48 hours, I can tell you all, as much as you think she works that much and more. She is never not working. I mean, and you don't have your kids here, and that's part of it.
Yeah.
I have not seen you not be working unless you're sleeping. And I'm really glad that you've been sleeping. It seems like you've been sleeping pretty well, even though getting up has been hard in the morning.
My BlackBerry's been in my hand every night. I fall asleep with it. It's kind of sad. Like I got my iPad over here, my BlackBerry in my hand.
But I mean, you are never. Your brain is firing at all times, and I have watched it happen on Zoom before. Like that's when we were planning Runner Interrupted, and we're talking until we had been talking for 2 hours, and all of a sudden MK goes, "Oh, okay, wait." Okay. And you just start typing and typing and typing and typing. And so I've got the Google Doc open over here, and I'm watching what you're typing appear in the Google Doc. And I'm watching your working face in the Zoom, like that's the level of focus that you are bringing to this. And I love it. And I'm so glad I asked the question that I asked before, because it was really amazing to hear you talk through kind of where you're at in your head with the company and with us and with everything that we're doing here with the podcast specifically. I feel like you're really in your element, and it's very cool. And I'm really happy to be here with you.
Thank you. I'm really happy to have you again. This is the first time I've traveled for work where I didn't kind of want to jump out one of the windows. Like traveling as a banker on a roadshow across the U.S. is horrifying. Traveling internationally on a roadshow when you're young with people that are senior to you is horrifying. The things I did when I was with the reinsurance company, like to catastrophic events, horrifying. Like it's like we're calculating if there was a earthquake in, say, Haiti, which is on a fault line, how much damage could be done 2 weeks later? Guess where there's an earthquake? How about in Chile if there was like, I don't know, a tsunami? Is that possible? Well, it could, because of where the fault line is. How much damage would that reliably cause? So it's like you're living the end of the world constantly, and it's and then when these things happen, it's like get the Google alert. There's been an earthquake in Chile and a tsunami is predicted. It's like, oh my God. So to be like, oh man, you know what? You're coached, you're loved. You're winning at life. You don't need fixing. It's going to be okay. The world is burning, but you know what? We can't fix that either. So let's be pretty and wear these earrings and go for a run. No, but seriously, like to be in this for the long haul.
Yes.
And to know that like if we can make Dr. Coach Sarah Axelrod of Harvard University chillax and wear a Oiselle dress to a conference with great hair and not notice the creepy guy following her around with the camera. And there is nothing we can't do, because I feel like that's the sort of thing in previous conferences, correct me if I'm wrong, which are nothing like the Italian Renaissance Fair. That like a Renaissance, the Renaissance Conference Festival and the Renaissance Fair are not the same thing.
The Renaissance Society of America, I was talking to MK about this yesterday. The Renaissance Society of America conference is one that I used to go to every year. And it is stressful as hell because it's very expensive, for one thing. It's always in an expensive city and an expensive time of year. And when I said that, MK was like, you mean like where they eat turkey legs on a stick? and fair distinction. The Renaissance Society of America is not quite the same as the Renaissance Fair, where my brother-in-law loves taking Roz for princess face paint and hair braiding and turkey legs on a stick.
But to be fair, how that came up in conversation, you said that the Renaissance Society, and I'm truly thinking like it was deprived from the context of a conference, an academic conference. So like if I was just talking about the Renaissance Society, would you, most of you, not think, oh, that's a group that puts on the fairs in my town and like sells, it's like cosplay, right?
It's completely legit. It's 100% legit.
It sounds the same.
But see, that's the world I used to live in. I used to live in the world where like
turkey legs.
Sorry. Where you don't even have to say Renaissance Society. You just have to say the RSA. Oh, it's the RSA conference. Oh, are you? Oh, yeah, I'm going to RSA. I'm going to MLA. I'm going to RSA. I'm going to NEMLA, which is Northeast MLA. I used to go to all these conferences, sometimes all three of them in a year, and then some other smaller ones. They are stressful places where it is all about making sure you wear your name tag that says Harvard University very prominently, so that people will at least default to taking you seriously, maybe, as long as you're not wearing a red dress or anything like that.
Wearing a turkey leg.
It is not about chillaxing, though. There is never any chillaxing, because I was always on, in a way, like, any person I talked to could be the person on the hiring committee of the next school that I apply to. Any person I talk to could be on the external tenure review committee where I might end up someday. And that is how they tell you to approach it. You go to these conferences, and it is all about being seen and being seen in a certain way and not screwing up. And so focusing on not screwing up is like, that was everything for me. And you told me not too long ago in the Mantra, and I love how sometimes we like talk to each other through the Mantra podcast. Yeah, there was a Mantra podcast.
The way I can make sure you hear me. It's like I'm saying it in front of everyone.
And you know that I'm listening to it when you're doing it, and I know that you're listening to it when I do it. And you told me, like, listen, welcome to the fuck up factory.
Yeah.
We can fuck up as much as we want, and it's okay, and it doesn't matter. And so coming to this conference felt like the stakes, it's not that there are no stakes, but the stakes are not what they used to be. And it's not about the stakes being high. It's about there being a lot of possibilities. And it's not about, oh, if we miss this, then that's it, we're done. It's about, let's just, kind of be here and be open to what might happen. And we've had some really great conversations.
We've had some really amazing conversations.
And we've had a really good time.
Oh, totally. And like one chance encounter that my head is still kind of like spinning from. So when, I guess we can save for another time. But I feel like we met the most important person at the conference yesterday at the Fat Podcasters lunch. And I'll stop with that. The two people that showed up to it are going to be game changers for us going forward. And I'm really, 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 really excited about that. So if we had just left after that, who are you? Do we know her? No, you don't know me. Do I know you though? I don't get out much. I just at the Renaissance Fair eating turkey legs and steaks.
She handed my card back to me.
She handed your card back to you? Oh my God.
This was a person that we met the first night that we thought might be a preview for the rest of the conference. Turned out she wasn't.
She was not.
She did not inspire a lot of confidence in how people were going to treat us.
Right. Because this is what I usually expect at conferences. They're always looking over your shoulder. Who's the most important person here? Oh, not you. Bye. Yeah. And I'm like, yep, keep going. Mm-hmm. Keep going.
And that's been my conference experience as well. So I'm glad that turned out to be kind of a one-off.
It is. It is. And like, it's when I talk about what we're doing and I talk about the price point, no one ever asked where that came from. They're just like, that's too low. And I'm like, what do you know? That's a number. You just like based off of what makes you say that that's too low. Mm-hmm. Like you'll never have a viable business. I'm like, disagree. Maybe you're right. But if you're going to write everything off because I said a number with no context, asking no questions. Yeah. You have no idea who I am. I might have the deepest pockets. I might be a Rockefeller. That is like, with a serious cocaine problem that my family would pay any amount of money to just go be quiet somewhere and make a podcast. Like we will put anything into this company just so that you don't try to come work for the Rockefeller Corporation. And the people like that exist. And they got a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So I'm just saying, you never know who you're talking to. And that example, by the way, is a real one that happened to a very good friend of mine who ended up working for an heiress to a family you've definitely heard of, managing her trust, the part of the trust that was allowed to be spent on business ventures that she wanted to go into. And there are more of those than you would think. In this
MK
world.
has hella stories like that.
Fun people. It's because I talk to everybody.
MK Business School. Thank you for attending MK Business School.
Well, I'm just saying, MK didn't even meet these people at business school.
I know, but this is MK Business School. This is where we come to learn all the ins and outs of living in the world and knowing your values and what you stand for.
Totally. And just be nice. Again, you can't have hour-long conversations with every person you encounter because sometimes you'll have to go to the bathroom. But to look at a person...
Sometimes you'll be really struggling to hold it by the end of the conversation, and that has happened several times.
Yeah. It's okay to not be into it and walk away. Yeah. It's not okay to write a person off because they aren't there yet. I believe that in running. I believe that here. And I believe it in the context of life and business.
You're amazing. This is amazing. This has been the training log of the Fitness Protection Program.
Start date 2019.
2019.
Oh my God.
I'm going to throw this out there. I didn't even mention this to you beforehand, but I would like everyone listening, if you have anything that you want to share about the training log of where you are in your life right now, whether it's running, whether it's something in your own business, something with your kids that you're kind of working through and you know that it's a work in progress and you don't really know where it's going yet, but you're in a place that you know you'll look back on and think, that was an interesting time.
Yep.
We would really like to hear from you. We would really like to, we've loved doing the podcast that we did for Rebuild and Maintain with your voice memos, and we want to do that more. Yes. So think about it. You have you have all the time you want. If you've been inspired by this conversation to think about something in your own life that you want to share with us, please record a voice memo or write us an email. If you don't, I know that recording voice memos is scary. We heard that a lot. We love when you do it, but we understand that it's scary. Get back to us and we'll feature it on a podcast coming up. We would love to hear from you.
And if you can't think of something along those lines, how about this one? I looked at my husband a long time ago and was like, and he threw it back at me right before I came here. He was like, you remember that time you said to me you'd rather go back to this being a hobby than creating revenue that goes into anything that stands for not what you believe in.
Right.
Like tell me about a time you did that when you decided to live your values at incredible cost. I would love to hear that story too. And that again, just because it has not, the narrative arc has not yet landed in a big old pot of gold. If it's a story that is ongoing, I still think there's value in hearing it. Doesn't just because you ain't there yet. It's not like Mario Brothers when you pause it and then he like falls and dies. That's not like where it's like
gotta go back to the beginning,
right? Stories don't have to do that. Yeah. That was just one Nintendo game.
Exactly. Have a good day, everybody.
Yeehaw!
You're coached and loved. We'll talk to you soon.
I need a big ass turkey leg.
Woo!